Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Let's Play Sins of a Solar Empire Rebellion Part 9. As always, my name is eckohour, and I will be the disembodied voice hosting this Let's Play. So, in our previous episode, we, the UIS Coalition, fired the opening rounds in our campaign against the Rollus Solbare. The Rollus Solbare, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, the Rollus Solbare is the only remaining faction that has yet to be defeated in our system. We defeated the Prophets of Zay, the light blue team to our north, really soundly. The Aluxian Resurgence, which was the other TEC faction in our system, they were defeated through some nefarious means that I still haven't quite figured out yet. So, the Rollus Solbare is the only team that's left. We're going to wipe out their planets, take them for our own, and that will mean that this entire star system here, all of the planets in it, will basically be ours. We'll still have a few more of the Aluxian planets to take, as you can see them there right now, but they're not immediately pressing. No sort of resistance is going to come out of the Aluxian Resurgence. Since they've been defeated, all that's going to be there is some buildings and whatever ships they had before they were defeated. That's what happens when a faction gets defeated. They will remain, their ships will remain, their planets will remain, their bases will remain, but they won't build anything, they won't generate revenue, they won't send out trade ships. They're just an idle, neutral faction. They almost revert to like the militia that we saw early on in the game when we were taking planets. Once we finish taking on the Rollus Solbare here, our new objective will be moving on to the next star system and defeating the other factions remaining there. So, as you may or may not have noticed already, I'm not exactly commenting on what is happening right now. We're bombarding the first planet that we attacked of the Rollus Solbare. We'll be moving on to other planets in this episode. Not really much resistance is put up by them, unfortunately. I was hoping for some good fights, never really quite got it from them. There are some good fights on the horizon, I can promise you that. We'll see some interesting stuff, just not particularly in this episode. There'll be some fighting, but nothing that I was quite hoping for, not the epic space battle. As I was saying, though, I'm not really commenting on what is happening. I'm not really giving you a stream of consciousness as to what my strategy is, what my plan is, what's happening. The reason for that is I'm recording this audio in post-production. I've been having a bit of an issue with my recorder. It's not that it's not working. The recorder's working fine. I use Bandicam, by the way. I know some people use Fraps. I feel like Fraps is a little buggy. I like Bandicam better. Bandicam's working fine. It's how the Bandicam records its how it codes it is not recognized by a few codecs on the editors I use, so I've been working on getting some converters to work through all that kind of stuff. That way I can get my live audio actually to you guys instead of just the game audio. But while I'm trying to figure that out, I still want to stick to a schedule. I still need to be consistent with my schedule. So, it's Monday. I wanted to get this episode out for you guys. I still haven't quite figured everything out yet, so I'm recording this in post-production just so I can get this episode out to you guys because I want to be consistent. I know one or two of you fans out there, the only two of you I may have, probably wondering where this episode is. So here it is. It's recorded in post. I apologize. It shouldn't be like this for long. Eventually, I will have live commentary again, and we can get back to Let's Plays the way they should be done. Stream of consciousness, all happening. Anyway, I figured since we are in a unique situation here, I could take this opportunity to be a little more transparent about who I am. My tag eckohour is something I've used a lot. This is my first time ever really trying to be any sort of gaming commentary. I should not say that. I actually met another LPer not that long ago, about a year and a half ago, I should say, through a game called Towns. If any of you are familiar with Towns, you'll know that's an interesting kind of game to watch a Let's Play of. The best way I can describe Towns to those of you who've perhaps never heard of it or don't quite know what it is, take Minecraft, mix it with SimCity, and then sprinkle in some Dwarf Fortress. And if you aren't familiar with those games, I'm sorry, I can't help you. But best way to describe it is you kind of have an open world, sandbox world where you mine materials with different villagers and create a town almost. The premise of the game is to have it be almost like the roles reversed. Like if you play Diablo, you go to a village and you visit shopkeepers and buy weapons from them, and you turn in loot that you found in the dungeon to get more gold. The premise of that is to have the roles reversed. Instead, what you're doing is you're building a town from the ground up to almost support those heroes who are now going into the dungeons and fighting. It's similar to a game called Majesty that was a kind of obscure RTS game back in the day. But as I said, I wanted to talk a little bit about me. As you may or may not have noticed from this being my first Let's Play since the Solar Empire Rebellion, kind of, I don't want to say obscure, because it is actually fairly popular, but kind of obscure. This is not really mainstream. But it is an RTS 4X. And then you've also seen, I released my episode early of my new series that I'm going to be starting, Let's Play Star Wars Empire at War, which is also an RTS, a Star Wars-based RTS. So if you haven't gathered by now, I'm kind of a strategy fan. Definitely on PC. I do enjoy strategy on the consoles when it's employed correctly, and I feel like one of the best iterations of strategy on a console I've experienced is a little game that is also fairly obscure. It's called Tom Clancy's End War. It actually uses voice commands, which I know, voice commands on a game, a lot of issues with that. Trust me, it works, and it works well. In any case, I enjoy strategy. I've always kind of enjoyed it ever since I was a kid. The first strategy game I ever played, as I said, I touched on this in the Let's Play Star Wars Empire at War episode, is I really enjoy Command & Conquer as a franchise. I started playing that when I was a really little kid, so I'm probably biased towards it just because I have the nostalgia thing going for it. But I've played it as I've grown up. As the Command & Conquer games have come out, I've gotten them, I've played them, with a few exceptions. But that is what really got me into gaming. So when other games came out that were similar to it, like Warcraft or Company of Heroes or Age of Empires, those games all attracted me too. So I play a lot of real-time strategy. I will never say I'm a great RTS fan. I don't play RTSs that competitively, so I never really was in a situation where I had to really hone my skills and become really good at it. But I am familiar with it. I know the terminology, I know how they're played, yada yada yada. But that's not to say I like every RTS. I am a fan more of the cerebral, strategic side of strategy games versus the twitchy, reflex-based, kind of not very flexible, rigid builds that some RTSs have. One of the better ways I can illustrate this is the difference between a game like StarCraft 2 and Company of Heroes 2. Now, before people start freaking out, don't get me wrong, I love StarCraft. I'm a pretty big Blizzard fan. I played Warcraft a lot when I was a kid, especially Warcraft 2. And then I really enjoyed Warcraft 3 when that came out. I played World of Warcraft for a while, back when that was a new thing. I was in high school, I played that. I never really played StarCraft 1, ironically enough. All my friends did, I just never ended up getting into it. Not because I hated it or anything like that, just opportunity never really rose. I never really had money as a kid, so I was kind of had to pick and choose. I didn't really get to pick and choose what games I played. So I was really limited to whatever my dad was playing. So he was a Command & Conquer fan, so by extension, I became a Command & Conquer fan. But StarCraft 2 came out. Really dug its single player, really dug its campaign. I tried its multiplayer, and it just wasn't for me, man. And the reason being is, I noticed, from my perspective anyway, and some people might quote me as being wrong, and plenty of opinions are welcome. From my perspective, what I took away from StarCraft is, whatever faction you choose, you're limited to 2 to 3 kind of opening builds for that faction that work. Certain type of strategies, like building this barracks in this location, or trying to rush this thing here. If you deviate from those, you are almost immediately at a huge disadvantage. Even if you aren't quite good at doing those particular builds, and you are doing them, and you're facing a player that is better at doing their particular kind of build, you're already at a huge disadvantage. What I've noticed, and this is kind of an esports thing more than a just normal kind of game thing, is you almost have to do your build the exact way that it's expected. Now, there's always meta breakers, and I know those guys, those guys are the guys that make the new builds and stuff like that. But most people aren't meta breakers, or not good enough to break the meta and do it well. Typically, 90% of what I saw of StarCraft games was whoever was better at doing their initial base build, their initial base building strategy, was just going to win the game. So that there was never, ever really a tactical, strategic gameplay involved. There was only in games where you saw two equally matched at building bases players, at doing their builds players, did you ever start to see combat and strategic levels of maneuvering and tactics and all this stuff like that. But on top of that, even when you did see that, that game was so fast-paced that almost any battle was over within seconds, really. So it was still kind of Twitch-based. It was still kind of reactionary and not so much planned out strategic, if that makes any sense. I'm sure there's plenty of people who disagree. StarCraft is a great game. It's a fun game. It's just not my thing. I used Company of Heroes 2 as the comparison. Company of Heroes 2 was a World War II strategy game. And what it is it's a lot slower pace, for one, versus StarCraft. There's also a lot less base building in that game, too. There is base building, but it's fairly limited. Those two factors combined, and I don't want to say that there isn't a right and wrong way to build your base in that game. There is. But it's not as much of a focus of Company of Heroes 2. The focus, I feel, in Company of Heroes 2 is not so much on the types of units you buy and the way you build your base, as much as it is how you maneuver your units and how you use the units that you have and the resources that you have. That's what I enjoy about strategic games. I enjoy that cerebral aspect. I enjoy pre-planning. I enjoy matching wits with my opponent, be it a computer or a human. I feel like a battle of wits is more my thing than a battle of reactions and a battle of who's rehearsed this particular build enough that they're better at it. So that's the kind of strategy game I like. I like the cerebral ones. Sins of a Solar Empire is about as extreme of an RTS, cerebral RTS as you're ever going to get. And the reason for that is it deviated from the normal 4X genre. Any of you, as I talked about 4X a little bit in episode 1 of this Let's Play, 4X, the biggest games for this is like Civilization, Galactic Civilization, any kind of turn-based game that is about governments or setting on a map. Typically, those games are all going to be turn-based. They're slower paced by nature because turns allow you to literally take as much time as you want to think about the actions you're taking, how you're building your empire, etc., etc. Sins of a Solar Empire, while being a 4X, deviated from that in the fact that it made it a real-time 4X. And this was new for the genre. I feel like a couple other games tried it, but Sins of a Solar Empire was really the first game to try it and do it really well and do it popularly. But because it still uses that 4X background, it's still very slow paced. You could miss something for like 3 minutes in Sins of a Solar Empire, and it's not going to set you back that much. What you're seeing right now is a pirate combat, but this is all being defended by automated defenses. I send no ships here at all, and even though I'm zooming in, even though I'm zooming out and checking things and looking at things, in the end, the way I had built up this particular planet meant that I actually didn't need to micromanage here at all. I don't even think I lose one turret at this planet. And that just kind of illustrates the difference in 4X versus, or in the cerebral type of strategy versus the Twitch-based kind of strategy. Because I planned out ahead, because I knew how this was going to, how best to defend this planet, it almost took care of itself. I didn't need to be reactive to this because I had planned out far enough ahead, laid down enough defenses that it was able to take care of itself. Now, that's not the case for everything. It's a case for pirates, but not the case for every situation. If a dedicated fleet was in here, I would actually need to start micromanaging. But the planning mitigates that. It's not a situation where this could be exploited. A human could. A human would be able to find the weak point in this planet and go and attack there. Because I surrounded the planet circularly with turrets, they could attack from a side that doesn't have as many turrets on it and only take some of the turrets, not have to take on the full brunt of the defenses. Because it's AI, because it's the pirates, they're going to fly around and literally take just about every shot from every turret in this planet. But it's kind of to illustrate my example. You can be a little more cerebral with this thing. And because I knew that this planet was okay, I was able to focus my ships on taking the role of Solbari that you see here. So I'm taking their planets. They actually just got defeated. If you see there at the top of the screen, it says the role of Solbari have been defeated. So with that, I took the last faction in my system. I won the system, basically, through strategy. It wasn't Twitch-based combat. It was planning out ahead. When I was facing the Prophets of Zay, I said, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this planet here and try and secure this planet here and keep them from expanding. Then I also said, okay, and what I also want to do is form an alliance, or try and form an alliance with the Alexians, which not really anything came of that. We never actually formed an alliance because they got defeated before that could happen, but it might have actually dissuaded them from launching any sort of aggressive attacks against me. So there's a little more of a long-term planning, I feel, in the cerebral strategy games versus the immediate knee-jerk reaction. I'll send this one guy along here, blow this thing up so that all these guys can go in. It's more of a, I will send this fleet to this area. You understand what I'm saying. I apologize if I'm rambling here. I'm just trying to illustrate to you there are really two different types of RTSs, I feel. And it's not that I don't like the reactionary RTSs. I said before that I like Command & Conquer, and Command & Conquer is not so much of a cerebral RTS as it is similar to that twitchy kind of strategy combat. It's not quite to the extent that StarCraft 2 is, because StarCraft 2 was designed to be an esport, so it's supposed to be exciting to watch. There's supposed to be big plays happening a lot, and that's the purpose. The purpose of esports is to be exciting almost at all times. It's not supposed to be slow like this game is. This game, watching someone play Sins of a Solar Empire is like watching two guys play chess. You know, it's only going to appeal to a certain type of person, as opposed to esports, which is just meant to be exciting by nature, which is what StarCraft 2 is. Anyway, that's just kind of how I feel about it. I know there's a lot of people that are going to disagree with me, and that's fine. I'm not saying that my opinion is the right one. I'm saying it's my reaction to it, and I'm sure there's plenty of people who feel like my reaction to it is wrong, and they're welcome to think that. I'm just trying to explain more what I go for in games. That's not to say that I don't play those games. As a matter of fact, I'm considering doing a Command & Conquer Let's Play eventually. I might even do an entire series for it, for all of the Command & Conquers. It's just, this is the kind of game I enjoy. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up here. I want to thank you guys for watching. This has been Sins of a Solar Empire Rebellion Part 9. Please stay tuned for Part 10.